Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Today we are going to start lesson number 7, which is about Ismul Ala, as we can see. Ismul Ala, noun of instrument. And it is also one of the derived nouns that we derive from the verb. So in the beginning, we learned about Ismul Fa'il, then we learned about Ismul Maf'ul, then we learned about Dharf al-Zaman or Dharf al-Makan. And today we are going to learn about Ismul Ala, which is also one of the derived nouns of the verb. Ismul Ala, Naw'an, so it has two types. So here, the only thing that we need to know that every noun that we will talk about is not necessarily going to be derived noun. It could be mushtaq, as we know that it means derived, and it could be jamid as well. In the beginning of the introduction of the mushtaqat, we have seen that there are two types of noun. It can be derived and it can be solid, jamid. So when we start learning, and then we are always looking for the root letters. So sometimes we are able to figure out, and sometimes we may not be able to figure out. So that means that it is not always going to be derived. It can be derived. 90% of the cases it is derived, but sometimes it can be jamid as well. So the purpose of this slide is only to know that Ismul Ala can be of two types. So when we talk about mushtaq, it comes on the pattern of mif'alun, as we can see here. And then also it comes on the pattern of mif'alun and mif'alatun. And when we talk about jamid, it can be like haqibatun. It doesn't have, or it hasn't been derived from any verb. Similarly, qalamun, it hasn't been derived from any verb. These are the nouns by themselves. So whenever we see a noun, so when we say this is Ismul Ala, that doesn't mean that it is derived. Most of the times it will be derived, but it can be jamid as well. Patterns of noun of instrument, Ismul Ala. Ismul Ala basically has only three patterns. Mif'alun, which is the most common. Then we have mif'alun, and then we have mif'alatun. Okay, now the difference between dharf and Ismul Ala is that dharf could be similar to this, but dharf will always take fatha. Mim will always take fatha, whereas in Ismul Ala, mim always takes kasra. So when we say instrument, that means our instrument is kasra. So you can remember like this, that the instrument is kasra. That means that whenever we talk about noun of instrument or Ismul Ala, it will always take kasra. And we know that most of the nouns, and especially the derived nouns, they start with mim. So that about dharf, we have seen that the pattern was maf'alun and maf'ilun, and also ta marbuta was added to both of them. So it was maf'alatun and maf'ilatun. And here we have the pattern of mif'alun, as we can see here, miftahun. And then we have mif'alun, which is mis'adun. And then we have mif'alatun. And here we have miknasatun. So our instrument is kasra. So whenever you think about Ismul Ala, you need to think about kasra, which comes under the mim. And it will be miftahun, which is fataha yaftahu, and miftahun. Mis'adun, sa'ida yas'adu, to ascend, and it will be mis'ad, which is used for the lift. And miknasatun, kanasa yaknusu, to broom, to sweep, and from that we have miknasatun. And we have some examples here from the Quran. Qawluhu ta'ala, mithlu nurihi kamishkat, or kamishkatin, or kamishkah. So when we stop, it will be kamishkah. And as we can see here, that mishkatun is basically on the pattern of miftahun. And this is the most commonly used pattern in the Quran. For example, we have misbahun, we have mithqalun, we have minhajun. So there are many nouns that are used on this pattern. And now we can see that this is majroor, and the reason is very clear. It is majroor because of ka. As we know that ka is harf jar, and after harf jar, the noun has to be majroor. So we know that this is a flexible noun, which is declinable. So it can be marfu, it can be mansoob, and it can be majroor. Then we have in the second verse, قوله تعالى وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُم مِّنْ أَمْرِكُم مِّرْفَقًا. So mirfaqun is on the pattern of mif'alun. So we can see here that mirfaqun is on the pattern of mif'alun. However, we can see here that it is used as mansoob, so it is mirfaqan. The original form is mirfaqun, and as we know that it can be used as marfu, and it can be used as mansoob, and it can be used as majroor. And then we have قوله تعالى دابة الأرض تأكل من سأته. Min sa'atahu. So min sa'atun is on the pattern of mif'alatun. On the pattern of mif'alatun. It refers to the staff of Sulaiman alayhi salam, his staff that he used to have. So min sa'atun refers to the staff of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So we have mishkatun, mirfaqun, mishkatun on the pattern of miftahun, mirfaqun on the pattern of mif'alun, and then we have min sa'atun, it is on the pattern of mif'alatun. So in this lesson, these are the most important things that we need to remember, that Ism al-Ala has only 3 patterns, mif'alun, mif'alun, and mif'alatun, and it always starts with kasra. We don't really have any specific reasons, or we don't have like we used to have for dharf, like why it will come on this pattern or on this pattern. For Ism al-Ala, it can be like, it can come on any pattern from any verb. There is no specific reason like why it comes from this verb or it comes from this verb. Ad-darsu asabi'u. So, hadha ad-darsu asabi'u. This is lesson number 7. So we have Hishamun, aturidina. Turidina, you know that this is the most unique verb form that we have for the present tense, turidina. So it's basically anti turidina. So when you're talking to the female singular mukhatab, then you will say anti turidina. Aturidina, so turidina is fail plus file, and that's why shay'an is maful bihi. So that's why it is mansoob. Aturidina shay'an min as-suqi. Ya, okay, what will be the ending of Ya Umma Ahmada. I was waiting for you to respond. Ya Umma Ahmada. Okay, now we know that Umma Ahmad is basically mudaf alayh, and when it comes mudaf, when it comes after harfe munada ya, then it will be always mansoob. We have studied in mansubat that mudaf alayh, when it comes with ya, then it will be mansoob. And Ahmada is basically, it is majroor, but we know that this is mamnu min as-sarf. It is on the pattern of af'alu. That's why it will be Ahmadu, Ahmada, Ahmada. So, aturidina shay'an min as-suqi ya umma Ahmada. Do you need anything from the market, O Ummi Ahmad? And now we will say ummu, because now it is the original form. So ummu Ahmada, the mother of Ahmad. So here it will be the original form, ummu Ahmada, but here it is mansoob because of ya. Na'am, yes. Uridu, I want. So uridu, as we know, this is fail plus file. I want. Mighrafatan. So mighrafatan, as we can see here, it's on the pattern of mif'alatun. So she says that I want a scoop, a big scoop, as we can see here in the picture. This one here. So I need a scoop, which is basically from gharafa, yaghrifu, and then ism al-ala will be mighrafatan. Wa miqlatan, miqlatan from qala yali, to fry something, and miqlatan will be frying pan. Wa mikwatan, mikwatan is from kawa yakwi, to iron. So it will be mikwatan. And wa maqissan is from qassa yaqussu, that means a pair of scissors. And why مغرفة, مقلاة, مكواة, and مقصا, they are mansub? Because uridu is fail plus file, and after that مغرفة is maful bihi, and this is waw al-atf. So all the nouns that come after waw al-atf, they will have the same i'rab as is the i'rab of the noun that comes before them. So she says that I want a big scoop, a frying pan, an iron, and a pair of scissors. Qassa yaqussu basically means to cut, but when it comes with the preposition of ala, then it means to narrate a story. نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق. So in Surah Al-Kahf, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we will just narrate the story of them. So نحن نقص عليكم. So نحن نقص. So whenever it comes with the preposition of ala, that means to narrate a story. But when it comes without the preposition of ala, that means to cut something. So qassa yaqussu, and from that ismul ala will be miqassun. Hishamun, ma akthara talibatiki. Talibat. This is the plural of talibatun. Talibatun is used for requirement or used for demand. And if we say talabatun, if it comes with fatha, it means students. You know the plural of talibun, the plural of talibun is tullabun, and also the plural of talibun is talabatun. So it has two plurals, talabatun as well. So when we read it with fatha, it means students. And when we read it with kasra, it means requirements. Ma akthara talibatiki ya umma ahmada. What kind of ma is this? Ma at-ta'ajjubiyya. When you want to, it's like ma of exclamation. If you remember the example in the previous lessons, قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَهُ. Ma akfarahu. So ma, and after that we have a fixed pattern, which is ma af'ala, and then after that the noun will always be mansub. For example, you say ma ajmala hadhihi as-sayyarata. Ma ajmala hadhihi as-sayyarata. How beautiful this car is. So talibatun, talibatin, talibatin. So here talibatiki, as we know, this is mansub, because when we talk about the sound plural for feminine, it will be atun, atin, atin, and it was basically atin, but because it is mudaf mudaf alayh, that's why it has only kasra. Ma akthara talibatiki ya umma ahmada. How many requirements you have, O Ummi Ahmad? Alam ashtari, hamzatul istifham, lam harf jazm, ashtari. So it was basically ashtari, and we know that after lam, the ending gets dropped. So now it becomes alam ashtari, didn't I buy, laki, for you, hadhil ashiya'a, these things, fil amil madi, in the last year or during the last year. So didn't I buy you all these things during the last year? Ummu Ahmada. Ummu Ahmad, she says bala. Why here it is bala and why not na'am? Here we have na'am, but because here we are negating bala. Yeah, this is a negative question. Yes, alastu bi rabbikum bala. So bala is used to answer the question, which is a negative question. And when we have the regular question, anta talibun, na'am ana talibun. So when you ask a regular question, then it will be na'am. And when it is a negative question, then the answer will be bala. She says, why not? Walakinnaha. Okay, ha refers to the things, ashiya. Walakinnaha min at-tarazi al-qadimi. But they are from the old model. Taraz is used for model, and this is Masuf, and Qadim is Sifa, but they are from the old model. And we know that Lakinna is also from the family of Inna. So Lakinna is Lakinna, Ha is Ismu Inna, and the rest of the part will be Khabaru Inna. Waqad, Lakinna. Yes, Lakinna. Thank you. And Wa al-istinafiyah, that means the waw that is used to start a sentence. Waqad, and indeed, ja'at, used for singular feminine third person. Ja'a, he came, and ja'at, she came. Okay, now so whenever we have ja'a or whenever we have ja'at, after that we have to look for the noun which has dhamma or dhammatain, because that will be the file. So fi suqi al-ana, as we know that jar majroor cannot be the file, cannot be the doer. So fi suqi is jar majroor, al-ana is dharf. Dharf and jar majroor cannot be the file. So that means we cannot say that they are the file, they are extra information. Atrizatun. So atrizatun, as we can see here, it has tanween on it. And hadithatun, definitely this is the adjective for atrizatun. So this is masuf and sifa. So that means atrizatun is the file of ja'at. Waqad ja'at atrizatun. Atrizatun is on the pattern of af'ilatun. Like we have in the Quran, al-sinatun. Similarly, we have afidatun. Similarly, in this book, we have as'ilatun, ajwibatun. So it's the same pattern. Atrizatun, hadithatun. So hadithatun, why it is feminine? Because atrizatun is the broken plural, and the adjective that we use for the broken plural will be feminine, because this is considered as singular feminine. So, وَقَدْ جَاءَتْ فِي السُّوقِ الْآنَ أَطْرِزَةٌ جَدِيدَةٌ. And now indeed new designs or new models have arrived in the market. Wa, and here refers to atrizatun. So in English, when we translate, we will say and they. Wa hiya tab'an, and they are of course. Ahsanu, the best. Wa ajwadu, and the finest. And they are the best and the finest. So why do we say the best and the finest?
To emphasize, is it?
Because after that we don't have min. Yeah, if we have min after that, then it will be comparative. And if we don't have min after that, that means it is superlative. Example, Allahu Akbaru. Allah is the greatest. So please remember, we have discussed this point many times, that whenever we have on the pattern of af'alu, whenever we have a noun, so whenever we don't have anything after that, that means it will be translated as the superlative degree. So they are the best and the finest. And then we have 3 dots, that means there is some pause. And after the pause, nasitu, I forgot, nasiya yansa, and from nasiya yansa we have nasitu, the 13th form of the verb. So Ahmad says nasitu an adhkura. So nasitu, this is fail plus file, and an adhkura, masdar al-mu'awwal will be maf'ul bihi. I forgot to mention an adhkura, and we know that after an, the noun, the verb will be also mansub. And now for nasitu, we have maf'ul bihi an adhkura, and adhkura has maf'ul bihi, which is al-qamha wal-adasa. She says, I forgot to mention the wheat and the lentils.
And beans. Lentils.
Sorry?
The beans, I said, was that correct? Lentils.
Qamha?
I said beans. Yeah.
Beans?
Yeah, that's what the pulses, I mean to say that. That's what.
Yeah, the lentils, yes. The lentils, and al-qamha is used for the wheat. So nasitu an adhkura al-qamha wal-adasa. I forgot to mention the wheat and the lentils. Beans is, I think, fasulia. For the beans, we use that word. Isma, then she says, please listen. Isma, inna, indeed. And we know that after inna, we have to look for ismu inna. So inna hadha al-baqqala al-jadida. So indeed, this new grocer, so al-baqqal al-jadid is ismu inna, and mutaffifun will be khabaru inna. Mutaffifun means it's from taffafa yutaffifu tatfifan, fahuwa mutaffifun. Sabbaha yusabbihu tasbihan, fahuwa musabbihun. So it's on the pattern of ismul fa'il, one who gives less in weight and measure. So any person who gives less in weight and measure is called mutaffif. Mutaffifun, he gives less in weight and measure. Fala tashtari, and do not buy, la an-nahiya. And again, it was tashtari, and the ya has been dropped. Why? Because after la an-nahiya, the ending will be sakin. La tashtari minhu shayyan, and shayyan is the maful bihi of tashtari, anta tashtari. Wa la tashtari minhu shayyan, and don't buy anything from him. And don't buy anything from him. So this part is clear now. Hisham says, Wailul lil mutaffifin. So it could refer to the verse of the Quran as well, and we can use it as an like everyday like expression as well. It depends, but it's better to translate it or think of it as the Quran because we are learning the Quran. So he says, Wailul lil mutaffifin. Woe to those who give less than due. So طفف يطفف فهو مطفف, and the plural will be مطففون مطففين, una, ina. And why it is ina? Because of harf jar li. So that's why it is ina. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Woe to those who give less than due. And we need to think about that, and we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are also not included among those, because we also, like whenever we are like doing our job or work or office, we go to the office. When it comes to the salary, we want it to be full, but sometimes we may not be doing our duty as we are supposed to do. Similarly, while attending the lesson, maybe I might be lying down, drinking coffee, watching TV, depends on, including myself. So similarly, when we are praying, during the prayer, maybe I am not doing ruku as I should do, sujood as I should do. So whenever we decrease something, we weigh something less, or we measure something less, that will be considered as mutaffifin. And this is very, very important. We need to be very careful about it. Walakin here, this is not walakin, this is walakin. Kayfa arafti dhalika. Arafti dhalika, because Hisham is talking to Ahmad. Walakin kayfa arafti dhalika. But how did you know that? Ahmad says, Innal jubna, indeed the cheese, alladhi, which or that, ishtarayta, you bought, minhu, from him, qabla, before, ayyamin, few days ago, wazantuhu, I weighed it, bimizanina, so mizan on the pattern of mif'al. Wazantuhu, I weighed it, bimizanina, with our scale, fawajadtuhu, and I found it, naqisan, to be less or to be deficient. So here naqis doesn't mean that talking about the quality of something. Here basically means the quantity of something. She says, I weighed it with our mizan. So mizan is also ismul ala. Fawajadtuhu, and I found it naqisan, to be deficient, to be less. All right, who refers to what? Fawajadtuhu. Wazantuhu.
And I found that things.
The cheese was there.
The
cheese, yeah. If it's things, then it will be ha. But jubn is cheese, so yes, it just refers to the cheese only, yeah.
Yes.
وَكَذَلِكَ, and similarly, and like that, kiltul burra, I measured grains or grain, فَوَجَدْتُهُ, and I found it, أيضا, also, naqisan, deficient or less. Kiltu, can you figure out what kind of verb is this? And which verb form is this?
It's like a dual kill. It's
Kila.
like
Kala yakilu.
also,
we have discussed in the previous lesson. Kala yakilu kailan. Kala yakilu kailan. So kala kalu. Sorry. Kila means both. Kala, that means both. This is from verb kala. For example, the Surah Al-Mutaffifin, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم كالوا. So now if you memorize one conjugation, as I told you, and one conjugation can be completed in less than 5 seconds. For example, kala kalu, kalat kalata, kilna. Kilta, kiltuma, kiltum, kilti, kiltuma, kiltunna, kiltu. Kilna, kiltu. Okay, kiltu means, so I measured it فَوَجَدْتُهُ أَيْضًا نَاقِصًا, and I also found it to be deficient. So kala yakilu is basically ajwaf ya'i. Ajwaf ya'i always takes kasra. When you reach the sixth form of the verb, it always takes kasra. You need to remember these things. Ajwaf wawi always takes dhamma. Qala, he said. Qala, qalu, qalat, qalata, qulna. So ajwaf wawi always takes dhamma, and ajwaf ya'i always takes kasra. You need to remember these things. Hisham says, Sa'ansahuhu, I will advise him, wa atlu, and I will recite alayhi, to him. Okay, so it should be qawlahu ta'ala. So I will recite to him the verse of the Quran. So sa'ansahuhu, sa'ansahu, sa is harf istiqbal, is used for the future. I will advise, and who is the object?
Him.
Who is the object of?
Shopkeeper.
Why it is the object? Because attached pronoun, whenever we attach a pronoun to the verb,
is there, the verb is there.
It is always maf'ul bihi. So when it is attached to a verb, it is always maf'ul bihi. And when it is attached to a noun, it will be mudaf alayh. So ansahuhu, so fail plus fa'il plus maf'ul bihi. So it is a complete sentence. I will advise him. Wa and atlu, tala yatlu, and this is also 13th form of the verb, atlu alayhi, qawlahu ta'ala, and I will recite the verse to him. Wala, and do not. Tanqusu, so this is naqasa yanqusu, as we have in the previous part, naqis, so naqasa yanqusu. Wala tanqusu, and do not decrease. Al-mikyala, the measure. Wal mizana, and the scale. And do not measure from the measure, and do not decrease from the measure and the scale. So al-mikyal is on the pattern of miftahun, mif'alun, and mizanun is also on the pattern of mif'alun or miftahun. Now, because these are the weak verbs, in the weak verbs like mishkatun, some changes will take place, and there will be some changes, and there is a possibility that it will not be 100% on the pattern of the exact pattern that we have, but originally it will be on the same pattern, but after the changes, and then it changes the shape. So basically, mizan is mivzanun, miv, and waw has been dropped, and it has changed into ya. So it has become mizan, but it's on the pattern of mif'alun. So this is also ismun ala, and this is also ismun ala. La'alla Allah, I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Yahdihi will guide him, or may Allah guide him. So we know that la'alla is also from the sisters of inna, and that's why the noun after that will be mansub. La'alla Allah yahdihi, may Allah guide him, or I hope that Allah will guide him. We cannot say that this is ishfaq, this is fear, this is hope, because when we talk about the guidance of someone, we are always hopeful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he will guide him. Aturidu anta. Why anta? Because here we have Ahmad. Aturidu anta shayyan. Yeah, aturidu anta shayyan ya Ahmadu. Okay. Do you want anything? Oh, Ahmad. Okay. What kind of anta is what kind of harf?
For emphasize, no?
Harf tawqid. Yes. Aturidu means you want. So this is enough. But aturidu anta, so this is for emphasis. Aturidu anta. So aturidu is fail plus file, and this is harf tawqid, and shayyan is maf'ul bihi. And ya Ahmadu, do you want? So do you remember the ayat of the Quran, the verse of the Quran? Ya Adam uskun, ya Adam uskun, anta wa zawjuka al-jannata. Yeah, so you need to remember that verse. I think we discussed in the first lesson of this book. So, ya Adam uskun anta. So as you can see here, this is a tawqid, which is used for emphasis. Ahmadu, na'am, yes. Uridu, I want. So now Ahmad wants the things. Mistaratan. So because this is fail plus file, so here we have maf'ul bihi, a ruler, as we can see here. Wa mimhatan is eraser, wa mibratun, and a sharpener. Yeah, misbaratun is on the pattern of mif'alatun, and mimhatun and mibratun are on the pattern of mif'alun. Mif'alun, excellent. Because we have the weak verbs, that's why these changes have taken place. So I want a ruler, an eraser, and also a sharpener or a pencil sharpener. Hisham says, Hati, this is Fail al-Amr, right? Yeah, Ism al-Fa'il or Fail al-Amr. Hati, you bring. You remember that Hati and Ta'al, these are two very special Af'al al-Amr, or these are two verbs that are used in the Arabic language, which we normally don't use the original verb. We use these verbs to call upon someone. So Hati, you bring, and Ta'ala, you come. Hati miftah as-sayyarati. So miftah is mudaf, and this is mudaf ilayh. Yeah, bring. So this is Fi'l al-Amr. That's why it is mansub. So bring the key to the car. Min ghurfati, from my room. Min harf jar, ghurfati, jar majroor. Ana lada babil mis'adi. I am at the door of the lift. Lada means inda. It is used. It is used to mean inda. So lada is dharf and inda is also dharf. Both of them are used as special mudaf, and the noun that comes after them will be mudaf ilayh. So ana lada.
Ladaina mazid, something in one of the verses of the Quran, like we have more with you.
There are many verses of the Quran, and we have discussed that inda is something that you have, but it may not necessarily be in your access, in immediate access. Yes, yeah. But lada means you have something and it is in your immediate access. However, when it refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is in his access. It is only for us, these things. When we talk about these small, minute details, that means we talk with reference to the makhluk and not the khaliq. Everything is in his access. And when we talk about these things, that means we are referring to ourselves. So it's a small, beautiful lesson, consists of Ismul Ala. So I believe we can start with the exercises as well. Okay, so Mada. Okay, what should be how to read it?
Mada
talabti.
Mada talabat.
Ahmed talabat. Ja'at, fatahat, nasarat, darabat. You should be used to it now.
But for the third person here.
Yeah, this is the fourth form of the verb.
Ummu is the
yeah.
noun.
Ummu is the fa'il. Ummu Ahmada is the fa'il. Min as-suqi, from the market. So ماذا طلبت Ummu Ahmada min as-suqi? What did Ahmad or Ummu Ahmad require or ask or demand from the market? So we remember that she asked for
a scoop.
Yes. Okay. A scoop. And miqlatun. Yes.
A frying pan.
Frying pan. Miqlatun. Or miqwatun. And the iron. Yes. And miqassan. Yes. Miqassan. Even I remember these. You need to remember as well. So talabat, she demanded or she asked. Miqrafatan wa miqlatan wa miqwatan wa miqassan. All right. So she asked for a scoop, a frying pan, an iron, and a pair of scissors. وَمَاذَا طَلَبَ أَحْمَدُ? And what did Ahmed ask for?
He asked for
Misbaratun. Okay. Mimhat and mibrat. Excellent. Very good. So talaba misbaratan, he asked for the ruler, wa mimhatan, and the eraser, wa mibratan. Yeah, and the sharpener, the pencil sharpener. Okay. Now this one here, I am going to start from here. Yuridu Hishamun, Hisham wants. So when we say Yuridu Hishamun, Hisham wants. So that means Yuridu is fail and Hishamun is fa'il. This part is clear, right? So Yuridu has its fa'il, its doer. An to or that, and to yatluwa, recite. So it was yatlu, but we know that when we say an, then after that the verb is always mansub. Okay, so an yatluwa. An yatluwa what? He wanted to recite. So he wanted to recite a fail plus file. Yes.
ayatin.
Ahsantum, yes. Ayya ayatin. That's why I didn't start from ayya ayatin, because we know that basically ayya ayatin should be here. So when it is here, we will know that straight away this is maf'ul bihi. But we know that ayyun is harf istifham, or and this one it requires sadrul kalam, yani it wants to come in the beginning of the sentence, because it is used. This is not harf, by the way, ismul istifham. So this is ismul istifham that is used to ask a question, and so that's why it comes in the beginning of the sentence. However, it will take the i'rab according to its position. So its original position is to come here, an yatluwa ayya ayatin. But as we know that it has come in the beginning of the sentence because it is this is ismul istifham. So that's why it will be ayya ayatin yuridu hishamun an yatluwa ala al-baqal al-jadidi, to the new grocer. Walimada, and why?
And why?
Ustad, one doubt.
Yes.
لأن هذا البقالة مطفف.
Yes, مطفف. Yes. هذا البقال مطفف. Yes. Yes, sister has a question. Yes, please.
Sister, yes, brother. Ayatun the feminine, brother. Ustad.
Yes,
So,
yes, it is feminine. Yes.
Yatuluwa, how can we can say?
Yatlu means he recites. So yatlu is fail plus file.
Referring to the
Yatulu, Hisham.
Hisham, it refers to Hisham. Excellent. So he wants to recite, and Hisham can ask for anything, for Sayyara, for Miftah, for Ayah, for the Surah of the Quran. So I mean, the doer can require anything. So the doer, we have to focus on the doer, because whenever we talk about the verbal sentence, we have to only look for the verb and the doer, ismul fa'il. And after that, sometimes we need maf'ul bihi, and sometimes we don't need maf'ul bihi. So yatluwa means he recites. He recites what? You can say he recites yatlu yani ayatan, yatlu suratan, and you can also say yatlu ayya ayatin, and we know that ayya is always used as mudaf. That's why ayatin is a majroor, it is mudaf ilayh. And also it could be ayyatu ayatin and it could be ayya ayatin, because for the feminine we also use ayyatu. But in most of the conditions, for masculine and feminine, for both, we use ayyu. However, for the feminine, we also use ayyatu. You know that. Okay, so yuridu hishamun an yatluwa ala al-baqal al-jadidi qawlahu ta'ala. So he wants to recite to the new grocer the verse of the Quran. وَلَا تَنْقُصُ الْمِكْيَالَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِأَنَّ هَذَا الْبَقَّالَ, because this grocer, مُطَفِّفٌ, is the one who gives less in measure and in weight. Okay, so لأن هذا البقالة, so this will be اسمه إن or اسمه أن, in fact, and this is خبر أن.
Yeah.
لأن or لأن. All right, so that's why this one has fatha and this one is regular, because we know that خبر أن is always marfu. We have discussed this in marfu'at. So all these points we are discussing.
Cheater?
Sorry?
Can we say also cheater? Mutaffifun?
Cheater, yes, but it refers exactly to the person who gives less in weight and measure.
Then what it is due.
Yeah, like a cheater is someone like Rashi, Rashi wal Murtashi kilahuma finnar. Those who like do cheating in many things, but mutaffif is basically used for someone who gives less in measure and weight. Kalimatun miftah or kalimatu miftahin, the word key. Ma'khudatun is taken from. So now you know that ma'khudatun is ismul maf'ul, akhadha ya'khudhu, and fahuwa akhidun, fadhaka ma'khudun, and for the feminine it will be ma'khudatun. And because kalimatun is feminine, that's why it is ma'khudatun. So kalimatu miftahin ma'khudatun. The word miftah is taken min from masdar, from the source fataha yaftahu. So it's taken from fataha yaftahu. Yani the source of miftah is fataha yaftahu. Liddalalati ala, to indicate alat al-fathi, to indicate the instrument of opening, the instrument of opening. Watusamma, and it is called isma alatin. It is called ismu ala, yani noun of instrument. All right. Ismul alati, then we have its definition, further definition. Ismul alati, the noun of instrument. So let's make it as mubtada, and then the rest will be khabar. Ismul alati, ismul ala is ismun masughun, is a formed noun. Ismun masughun, a formed noun. Min al-fi'l thalathi, from the triliteral verbs, or from the verbs that have 3 root letters. Liddalalati ala, to indicate ma waqa al-fi'lu, where the fi'l, yani where the action took place, biwasitatihi, through it or by it. So ismul ala is a formed noun from 3, or from the verbs that have 3 root letters, to indicate what? Ma means alladhi, to indicate that waqa al-fi'lu, the action took place biwasitatihi, through it or by it. So ismul ala is a noun that is derived from the verbs that have 3 root letters, to indicate a noun, or to indicate an action through which the action took place. Through which the action took place. Lismil alati, we know that the hamza of ismun is hamzatul istifham, so that's why we will read it.
This black bar is seen on the screen. I don't know, from past 2-3 days only it is seen, like up and down you're moving this bar. It is
the bar,
like,
so you can see that?
Yes, and it is hiding the...
I will try to hide it, yes, I will hide it.
No, it is hiding the font or whatever the...
It's also disturbing me as well.
It's only for past 2-3 days only, Ustad. Otherwise, previously we never used to see this bar, and it is too irritating.
All right, sure. I will definitely. Maybe we made some changes today, so inshallah I will fix it.
We didn't used to see this, Ustad. Recently only we are seeing this bar.
Sure.
Up and down you're moving.
Lismil alati, for the noun of instrument. Thalathatu awzanin, are 3 patterns. So lismil alati is mubtada, and thalathatu awzanin is khabar. So ismul ala has 3 patterns. Mif'alun, wa mif'alun, wa mif'alatun. Nahwu, miftahun, key, wa mibradun, file, as we can see here in the picture, wa miknasatun, and broom. So why I have put the pictures here, because most of them we are not used to them, and also I'm following our sheikh, because our sheikh has also put some pictures in the end of the book. So that's why we like our sheikh, and we like the way he taught us, and we will try to inshallah follow him as well. Now we will do inshallah complete this exercise, and after that our lesson will be completed for today inshallah. Sugh, sagha yasughu sugh, qala yaqulu qul. So it's on the pattern of sagha yasughu sugh, form. Min al-af'al al-atiyati, from the following nouns. Asma al-alati, nouns of instrument. Ala wazni mif'al. So we have to make nouns on the pattern of mif'alun, only this pattern. We don't have to think about the other patterns. So we have fataha yaftahu,
miftahun.
Miftahun. Okay. Nashara yanshuru,
Minsharun.
Minsharun. Okay, so this is the picture here. So nashara yanshuru, to saw, and minsharun is a saw that is used for cutting the wood. Then we have haratha yahruthu,
Mihrafun.
Excellent. So
the plow. Okay.
Yes, the plow. Yes. So haratha yahruthu mihrathun, plow that is used in the fields. Yes, for growing the fields. Then we have zalaja yazleju.
Mizlajun.
Mizlajun, excellent. Mizlajun is used for a sliding latch. So slide, zalaja yazliju is basically to slide something. And mizlajun is a slider or sliding latch, as we can see here in the picture. Then we have qasa yaqisu. So I'm moving it up so that we can see. Miqyasun, excellent. So miqyasun, and this is measuring instrument. And these days you might have seen it a lot in the malls because of Corona. Whenever we go to the malls, they always check our temperature. So this is called miqyasun, measuring unit, instrument, sorry. And then we have kala yakilu.
Temperature.
Mikyalun. Excellent. So mikyalun is basically, it is also used for measuring.
Scale.
Scale. Excellent. And then we have wazana yazinu. So from wazana yazinu, we have mizanun. Mizanun. So the original from asluhu is mivzanun. Mivzanun. And waw has been changed into ya because ya is compatible with kasra. So because it has kasra, ismul ala starts with kasra. So that's why waw has changed into ya. And we know that these weak letters, because they are weak, so they change and they help one another or each other so that no one can disturb them. So that's why they keep on changing. Sometimes we change waw into ya, and sometimes we change ya into waw, and sometimes both waw and ya, they are changed into alif.
Alif.
Yes. Is this enough for today? Or do you want to continue?
Is the lesson over?
Not yet, I believe. The lesson is finished. We are doing the exercises now. And maybe we can complete one more exercise if you want to. We have like 5 minutes. Yes.
You cannot see the book.
Okay, you should be able to see now. The screen, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, the same pattern. The same instructions. So, من الأفعال الآتية أسماء الآلة على وزن مفعل. So we have to remember, and now we have to bring them on the pattern of mif'alun. So first pattern was mif'alun, and this is mif'alun. And this is called noun of instrument. What is our instrument? Our instrument is kasra. Don't forget that, please. The instrument is kasra. If you remember this information, inshallah, you will never ever forget about ismul ala. Barada yabrudu, to file something. Mibradun, and it's like filing, the process of filing, like the mechanics or like the engineers, I don't know, they just do it. They use this instrument. Then we have halaba yahlubu, to milk.
Mihlabun.
So mihlabun definitely will be milking vessel, as we can see here. Milking vessel, yes, mihlabun. Sa'ida yas'adu, to climb.
Mis'adun.
So that means mis'ad, that means lift. Oh, sorry. Then we have qabada yaqbidu. Miqbadun. Qabada yaqbidu, to get hold of someone, to hold something. And miqbadun means the holder. Yes, the handle or the holder that we use to handle, to hold something. So it will be holder or handle, miqbadun. Then we have qada yaqudu, that means to drive. Miqwadun. So miqwadun, what do you think miqwadun should be?
Like the steering wheel?
Steering, excellent. Steering wheel, yes. Steering wheel is miqwadun, because qada yaqudu, and basically steering is something that we normally are really used to control the car. Yeah, so that is the instrument. And there are so many instruments, so we cannot make them all.
If we hold this thing of the horse also, we cannot call that one Ustad. Only some things which are used to drive, is it?
Exactly, that's right, miqwad. Yes. Okay. Then we have qassa yaqussu, and we already have it here, miqassun. And the reason why Sheikh has given us over here for us to know that this is idgham and this is from muda'af, the verb that have two root letters that are the same. So it will be the same pattern, mif'alun, but what happens, it was basically miqsasun, and miqsasun after idgham has become miqassun. Hakka yuhukku, it means to scratch. Scratch like when we are scratching our body.
Mihakkun.
Mihakkun, excellent. Mihakkun. So it's like touchstone, they call it, like, I don't know, it's like used for scratching or something like that. So
Yeah, we use it for the toes and things like that.
for the toes, something like that, or maybe for the feet as well.
Pumice, like the pumice, yeah.
All right. So alhamdulillah, almost we are done with the lesson. We are done with the exercises. If there is anything left, inshallah, we will continue in the next lesson, and we will complete this lesson as well, and inshallah start the new lesson. And the new lessons are really easier, and the reason why they are so easier and they are so easy, because we have discussed all these things in book 2 in complete detail. So because we spent so much time on book 2, now inshallah book 3 should be comparatively easier. Right? Isn't it? أليس كذلك?
نعم إن شاء الله إن شاء الله.
Right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام. جزاك الله خير.
وإياكم.